And Reverend Robertson thought the same. Forget the satellite peaks, he would climb straight to the highest summit. This strategy gave him a chance to catch up with Munro. And in conditions like these, it's easy to see why.
Reached the top of Fidian Namdan, but it's a real blizzard.
Now if we're going to climb the two satellite peaks, we'd have to spend, what do you reckon, Alan, another hour going along the ridge in that direction and then in that direction.
It's just too late, the weather's too awful to do that. What it tells you is what an amazing ambition that man Munro had to climb all the main peaks and all the satellite peaks. And we're not down yet, Alan. Point to that. This is the real thing. It's really tough. I've had my heart pounding.
After 3.5 hours in atrocious conditions, Alan and I finally make it back to the road, and we only managed to climb the main summit.
Never let it be said that Munros are easy.
I certainly would.
But for this man here, we'd be sleeping out there overnight.
Thank you, Al. It was fun. It required a determined approach up there, let's say.
Munro's fastidiousness had left him facing a Herculean task, 538 peaks to climb. The Reverend's methodology meant he only had to climb 283, still stiff, but much more manageable.
Here was a chance to complete the list ahead of the list maker himself.
First Munro, and now Robertson, had been entranced by the list. Each had their opinion on the rights of ordinary people to roam the hills, but neither could have anticipated the mass appeal of the list, come rain, snow, or yes, even sun. Dave Hewitt is editor of cult hill walking fanzine The Angry Corrie. He's become the country's foremost expert on the social phenomenon that Munro bagging has become.
Now, Dave, it's a strange obsession, isn't it? What sort of person wants to come here to get wet and cold and eaten by midges? I mean, who's your average Munro bagger?
I don't think there is an average one, really. I think it covers, all ranges of occupations and classes. Just a right variety of people. Probably more men than women. It's maybe about 75% men, perhaps, insofar as you can put a figure on it.
So all walks of life, but a male bias.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, there's an academic thesis to be written about why men are more interested in ticking lists than women. But yes, I think so.
What's the scale of it? How many people are out there Munro bagging?
Is very difficult to say, but it's in the thousands, probably in 5 figures. It's extraordinary that people do this in such numbers, but people keep doing this and keep coming back to do more of it. And it's not rational at some level why people do this.
What do you think Sir Hugh Munro would say if he saw thousands of Munros going off bagging his mountains, tramping across these sacred hills and glens?
I think he would have stroked his beard in a certain puzzlement. Probably quite proud in a way, I think. I would hope that he would be pleased if he could see it now, and that it's a kind of tribute to him, I suppose, in the diligence he had of putting the list together, and the success of the list in terms of it's pretty accurate from the word go.
So who'd you rather spend a day in the hills with, Robertson or Munro?
A bit of both, really. Munro appears to be something of a pedant, and a diligent pedant, and I can warm to that, as I've got tendencies that way myself, I suppose. But after about half an hour of him droning on about this, I think I'd have slightly had my fill, and I would have then hopped across to see the Reverend Robertson, who I think was a kind of more rounded character, I suspect, and a bit more kind of a bit more of a gleam in his eye, perhaps, in terms of just, you know, humour over things.
He was in more of a hurry, wasn't he, Robertson?
Oh, he was definitely in a hurry. I quite like that. I quite like the fact that he almost reinvented the rules of a game that hadn't yet been invented, to become the first person. And some people disapprove of that, and I can see why. But he was a bit of a pioneer in his own way.
The game for both Munro and Robertson was climbing the mountains on the list. But with his radical idea of only climbing their main summits, Robertson had opened up the game to many more players.
Today, not many hill walkers are prepared to tackle Munro's challenge of 538 peaks. Instead, most follow Robertson, ticking off the main mountain summits only, which has become known as doing the Munros.
It's Robertson's 283 main mountain summits that we now call the Munros. Today, over 4,000 people are recorded as having done them. Munro himself could have scarcely dreamt his empty mountains would soon be trodden by so many.
Munro's list ceased to be his own personal property almost from the moment he put pen to paper. Starting with Robertson, it's been adopted by thousands who've used it to chase their own dreams. It's really just a list of mountain names, and yet it's luring more people than ever into Scotland's wild country.
The list has had an addictive mass appeal, but it casts a very personal spell on everyone who follows it.
Hello, Douglas. Good
Nice
to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
How do you feel last one?
Good, yeah, I feel good. Oh, it's a better day than I thought it might
Are
be.
you excited?
Absolutely, I just beside myself.
I
Yeah,
know you're getting things together.
I'll get some boots and stuff.
Today, Douglas Grieve hopes to be the next of Munro's successful acolytes.
Have something lighter, I could throw weeks against heavy.
Hi everyone.
Sgúr Abhurach, near Kinlochhorn, is the very last Munro he has to climb.
It's going to be very windy up on the top, Douglas.
I bet it will be, yes.
Have you got enough clothes there?
Yeah, I've got this jacket as well. Yeah.
Have you got stuff in there?
I've got a lot of I've got a lot of clothes with me. I've seen the forecast. It's going to be blowy up top.
Douglas has gathered around 20 of his friends and family for this final ascent. It's a day that deserves to be marked. He has climbed all the Munros bar today's in little more than 6 years. It's been all-consuming, a life-changing journey. It began soon after Douglas retired, when his wife died.
Oh, that's good.
Getting off up into the hills and getting lost in yourself, I've heard people so often say it's a sort of a spiritual experience, and that's why I've done more than half of them on my own, and I do thoroughly enjoy it. And, you know, filling in the day, I would leave home at 5 o'clock in the morning, as I said, and get home 10 or 11 at night and be utterly exhausted. And of course you were utterly exhausted in the next day. And so time moved on, and, you know, the things healed.
Has it been rather like opening a window on Scotland that you hadn't known before?
Well, that's perfectly true, because, I mean, I'm quite sure I've stood on places in Scotland where, 99 point something of the population never ever have stood, ever will stand. To have stood in the 284 highest places, something pretty special.
So how important, Douglas, is today climbing your final Munro?
It's, yes, you get a bit of a mixed feeling about that. I suppose I'm absolutely elated. I'm thrilled to bits. I'm really proud of myself and be able to show off for once. And a bit relieved, because I started off, you know, I'm getting a year older every year, obviously, and I started off by doing 50, then 70, then 64, then 60, then 24, and then 12, and I still had these 4 to do, and 3 of them were really, really remote for me.
Yeah.
And yes, I was imagining myself lying on my slab there, Nick, with the minister saying Douglas was very, very keen hill walker, but unfortunately he only managed to do 279 Munros. So I haven't done this one yet, so let's get going.
Yeah.
For Douglas, finishing the Munros has only been conceivable because of Reverend Robertson's idea